Maya grabbed the teddy bear. It had been hers since she was 3. It had been her comfort during nightmares, her friend during hospital stays, and her best friend during teenage heartbreak. She brought it to college even though she was embarrassed. She kept it on her bed in every apartment she lived in. She brought it into space because it felt wrong to sleep without it close by. How many times had she held it? A lot. Tens of thousands. Every touch, every moment, leaving a mark that can't be seen. Just physics, not emotional energy or spiritual essence. The small patterns of how people interact with each other over the years and the collective's technology could see those patterns. Maya got up, full of energy from understanding. The power wasn't getting to the warp drive, it was reacting to information, to the beautiful, complicated, and messy data that came from being in someone's life. Her toys were not magical batteries, they were libraries of information. For some reason, the warp drive needed that exact kind of information to work. She went up to the machine with a new goal. She had to give the drive as much information as it needed if it needed complicated patterns. All of the toys, not just one, not just thrown together, but arranged to make the most coherent information field she could. Maya began with the astronaut figure, which she thought was the main control node. The second node got the Rubik's Cube. She arranged the toys based on how they reacted, creating a star-like pattern of objects around the crystalline surface of the warp drive. The teddy bear was lost and was in the middle of the array. The whole drive came to life as soon as it touched the crystal. Lights flowed through the crystal structure, not the single points she would seen before, but rivers of light flowing through channels that she had not been able to see before. The hum turned into a chord with several frequencies working together in a way that made Maya's bones vibrate. Her tablet was going nuts. Power readings going up, turning on the energy matrix. The warp field generator was getting ready to go, actually starting up. The drive was waking up after being dormant for hundreds of years. Maya was amazed to see the crystal structure change shape. Parts that looked like they were still were really moving, sliding, and turning to make new geometric shapes. It was like watching a flower bloom, but the flowers were made of light and sang in a way that made your teeth hurt. After that, things stopped getting better. The lights got a little dimmer. The hum started to sound unsure and shaky. The warp field generator stopped working, and when it got to 43% initialization, Maya looked over her readings. The drive was on, but it wasn't working right. Almost, but not quite. She asked the machine, "What else do you need?" Everything was in its place. She did her best to make the information field as clear as possible, but there was still something missing. The drive was reading about her childhood, but it needed more. It needed a setting, link, the story that gave those things meaning. Maya sat down in front of the array and began to speak. Okay, the astronaut figure. I got him when I was 7 years old because I loved rockets. My mom took me to the Space Museum for my birthday. I saw him in a gift shop and knew I had to have him. Mom said we couldn't afford the prices at the gift shop, but I started to cry real tears because I needed him. That is why she bought him. Spent money she had saved for food. I didn't know that until years later the lights on the astronaut figure got brighter. I gave him the name Marcus. I don't know why. I brought him with me everywhere. In my mind, he went to the moon with me every night. He was there when my parents split up. I held him during the custody hearings when it felt like everything was falling apart. He told me that space was bigger than my problems, that there was more to the universe than just my small world of pain. The light spread from the astronaut figure to the crystal around it. Maya kept working on the Rubik's Cube. This is what my dad gave me. He wasn't very good at feelings, but he was good at puzzles. He would give me puzzles when he didn't know what to say. I could never figure this one out. I got close a lot of times, but I never quite got it. As a kid, it drove me crazy. I like that it's still a mystery. It reminds me that not everything needs to be finished, that the effort is enough. More lights. The warp drive was directing to both the things and the stories they told, to the meaning Maya gave them based on what she remembered and what she was. She worked on each toy one at a time. The dinosaur that stood for her time as a paleontologist, the kaleidoscope her grandma gave her before dementia took away her memories, the wind up car that her first crush gave her, the blocks of letters that help you learn to read, the harmonica she tried to play to impress that crush, but failed miserably. Every story added more information to the field. Every memory changed the way the crystal structure worked. The drive was getting to know her. Knowing that made these things more than just plastic and metal. Finally, she reached the teddy bear. Beer, she said simply, using the boring name she had given it when she was a little girl. You have been with me longer than anyone else. Through it all, you were there for me when I was scared, happy, and so lonely. I thought I would die from it. You are the one who stays, the thing that has always been there. She picked up the beer and hugged it. I brought you to space because I'm still scared sometimes, like a kid, because I still need to feel safe. I know I'm supposed to be an adult who doesn't need stuffed animals, but I do. I need you. And right now, I need your help to get home. She pushed the beer back against the crystal, and the whole warp drive lit up. The initialization went from 43% to 60%, and then to 70%, and finally to 85%. The crystal structure was now fully active, and energy was flowing through every channel. The machine's shape had changed completely, making shapes that looked like they were in more than 3 dimensions. Maya's tablet slowed and warp field forming, making the bubble of bent space-time that would let people travel faster than light. The amount of power used was huge, but it could be kept up. The fuel core was coming to life. Navigation systems were coming online and using the station's old database to read coordinates. It was doing its job. It was working, even though it didn't make sense and went against what most people thought they knew about physics. Her childhood toys, which had been gathering memories and meaning for years, were turning on technology that had been dead for 300 years. The drive got to 92% initialization and stayed there, close enough to work, but not all the way there. Maya got it. It needed one more thing, not an other thing, but a place to go, a reason. She put in the coordinates for Earth, for home, for the place where all of these things had gotten their meaning. The drive accepted the coordinates and the initialization went up to 100%. The crystal structure started to glow in a rhythm way. The hum turned into something that sounded almost like music. Maya could feel the building charge of a warp field getting ready to jump through the floor and her bones. She had about 10 seconds to get to the control room of the station and the strap in before the jump started. She ran away, leaving her toys pressed against the warp drive, which gave them data that made the journey impossible. As she sat down in the pilot's seat and strapped herself in, she had one clear thought. She was going back to home. The warp jump lasted 3 seconds and 3 lifetimes at the same time. Maya's mind stretched across the 17 light years between the abandoned station and Earth, feeling every parasec as both a moment and an eternity. She saw colors that were not there in normal space, felt things that didn't have names, heard the music of her toys singing through crystal channels. Their memories made her go faster than light. After that, she was done. The station appeared in the outer solar system of Earth with a flash that could be seen by sensors up to 1 million kilometers away. Maya gasped as her brain tried to put itself back together after being briefly smeared across space. The crash restraints had left marks on the skin. Her nose was bleeding. She bit her tongue so hard that she could taste Cooper, but she could see Jupiter through the window. Jupiter in real life. The great red spots, familiar spiral, the moons she knew by heart as a child. She was in the solar system. She was at home. Her communications panel lit up with alerts about things nearby. Three ships were already changing course to meet up according to their transponder codes. They are the Earth Defense Force. They would want to know why a derelict station just appeared in their space through an impossible warp jump. Maya turned on the communication system in the hopes that it would pick up modern signals. This is technician Maya Rodriguez, a survivor of the salvage ship Prospect, asking for the help in an emergency and medical care. I am all by myself on an abandoned collective station, and I don't know how I'm still alive. The answer came in a matter of seconds. A calm, practiced male voice. Prospect survivor. This is the EDF patrol ship Martinez. We can see you on our sensors. Please stay in your place and get ready to board. The medical team is ready. Can you prove who you are? Maya laughed, and the sound was full of hysteria. ID number 7482B for Maya Rodriguez, technician second class, born in Austin, Texas. Alex is her sister. Tom and Linda are the parents. I have been stuck for 47 days and I have a box of toys that just saved my life. I don't know how to explain any of this. There was a break. 6 weeks ago, it was reported that the Prospect had lost all of its crew. You need to stay calm. Help with medical and mental health issues is on the way. You are safe now. Safe. The word sounded strange. Maya looked around the station, which had been both her prison and her lab. The warp drive was still glowing faintly, but it wasn't turned off. Her toys were still stuck on its surface, each one a small link between her childhood and the stars. The few next hours were a blur. EDF workers boarded the station in full hazmat gear as if she might be infected. No, she wasn't. She was just tired, thirsty, and she had been exposed to a little bit of radiation. They stabilized her on the spot, gave her fluids, and did some initial scans. She kept saying they needed to see the warp drive through it all, needed to know what she had found out. Commander Sarah Okafor was the main investigator. She listened to the Maya's story with the kind of patient doubt that trauma survivors often have when they tell their stories. Okafor's doubt turned into confusion when Maya took her to the warp chamber and showed her the toys still stuck to the crystal surface. You are telling me, Okafor said slowly, that you use toys from your childhood to turn on a collective warp drive, not the toys themselves, the patterns of information they gathered, the useless data. Dr. Sarachan brought a paper that explains it better than I can. Maya was swaying on her feet because she was so tired. Now that help was on the way, the Kafir grabbed her elbow to steady her. Dr. Chen's theory of resonance, that idea was proven wrong decades ago. It wasn't wrong. We just couldn't prove it with the technology we had. The drives in the collective don't work just on power. They need patterns of information that are hard to understand, organic information, the type that comes from things that have been important to someone. My toys had enough important information to turn on the drive. That's not possible. How am I here then? Maya pointed at the glowing warp drive. How did a dead station jump 17 light years? Commander Math doesn't lie. I'm right here. That drive is on. The only thing that changes is a teddy bear and some action figures. A Kafar called her science team. They looked at everything for 4 hours. The toys, the drive, Maya herself. The readings were clear and completely unexplainable. The warp drive was working on a power curve that didn't make sense. It looked like the toys were the source of the energy, but not in a normal way, as something else, as information structured so that it could work with collective technology made to read kind of data. Dr. Marcus Webb, a young physicist, was so excited that he was practically vibrating. Do you know what this means? If we can copy this and make things that are full of information on purpose, we could change the way we travel through space. We were trying to make drives that were faster when what we really needed was data that meant something. How meaningful? Akafer asked. That's the question. Technician Rodriguez cares about these toys in a special way, her memories, her experiences, and the people she cares about. They made a special information signature that the drive could read. It's like encryption in biology. The drive needs data that has been changed by people interacting with it. Maya fell into a chair that they had brought into the warp chamber. So you can't make a lot of these. You can't make meaningful things that are up to factory standards. They need to be truly personal, right? Which is both amazing and a problem. Dr. Webb was already drawing pictures on his tablet. Awesome, because it backs up Dr. Chen's ideas. This is a problem because it means that warp technology might require people to give up something. You would have to power drives with things that people really care about. Or, Maya said slowly, you would have to completely change the way we think about technology. Stop trying to get rid of the human element and start adding it on purpose. The talk went on, but Maya was fading away. The adrenaline that had kept her going for 47 days was gone. She was really crashing. Akafar saw this and called for the medical team to take her to the ship's medical bay. Maya looked back at her toys as they lifted her onto the stretcher. Don't take them off yet. The drive could stop working altogether. Before we change the configuration, we need to know about this. Akafar said, we will be careful. Take a break. You deserve it. Maya closed her eyes and let herself float. She was home going home for real. She would be debriefed at the Earth orbital station in 3 days. She would be on a planet in 4 days. She would see her family in 5 days. The thought made her chest hurt with an emotion she couldn't put into words. There was both happiness and sadness for the crewmates who didn't make it, a mix of relief and tiredness, hope mixed with the strange feelings of knowing her toys would stay behind, attached to the warp drive and serve science. Instead of comfort, she had saved herself by remembering things from her childhood with all the meaning that plastic and fabric could hold, that the most advanced technology in the universe might not be unlocked by computers, but by the simple act of loving things. Dr. Chen was correct. Maya had the bruises, the nose that was bleeding, and the impossible walk jump drove it. 3 months after being rescued, Maya stood in a conference room at the Geneva Institute for Advanced Studies in front of 200 scientists, military leaders, and government officials. She had told her story many times by now to doctors, to investigators, and to reporters who had somehow heard about the miraculous return. But this was not the same. This was real. This would decide how people would interact with collective technology in the future. Holographic displays behind her showed the warp drive, with her toys still stuck to its surface like barnacles on a ship. Dr. Webb's team had been studying the configuration for months without changing it. What they found was groundbreaking and very disturbing. The data is clear, Dr. Webb said, taking over the presentation. The warp drive reacts to information patterns that are, for lack of a better word, emotionally structured. Things that people have used or seen leave behind unique marks. The more important the object is, the more complicated and useful the signature gets. A general in front row raised his hand. Are you saying that teddy bears and action figures could power our warp drives? Not quite, Maya said. It's not about the things themselves, it's about what they have with them. The drive needed my specific toys because they held my specific way of experiencing things. Other people's toys wouldn't have worked. It's like biometric security, but instead of reading fingerprints, it sorts the meaning that has built up over time. A scientist from the European Space Agency said, so it's not replicable. We can't make this the same for everyone. No, not in the usual way, but we can deal with it. We can make systems that purposefully include personal items. We can make systems where useful data is built into the technology instead of being separate from it. A woman from the Asian Space Coalition stood up. This sounds great in theory, but it won't work in the real world. You say that every ship needs to be powered by personal mementos in order to travel between stars? That's not possible in terms of logistics. Maybe, Maya said, or maybe we have been wrong about how to travel through space. We have been trying to get rid of the human factor and make everything the same and more efficient. But what if the most powerful energy source we have is actually human connection? There was a lot of arguing in the room. Half of the people in the audience were excited about what might happen. The other half thought Maya was pushing for fake science. Akafor, who had become Maya's unofficial supporter, asked for order. Akafor said, let's focus on what we do. Now, Technician Rodriguez turned on a warp drive that had been turned off and traveled 17 light years using a method we don't fully understand, but can confirm happened. We need to look into this, even if we don't like what it means. The collective left behind hundreds of empty stations all over this area. Everything changes if we can get even a small number of them going. That caught everyone's attention. Even with all of the humanity's best efforts, collective technology was still decades ahead. Active stations could be used for communication relays, processing resources, and scientific outposts. The strategic and economic value was huge. We suggest a pilot program, Dr. Webb said. Small scale. We put one of the dormant drives on a research ship and try to get it working again using Technician Rodriguez's method. We write down everything and try to learn as much as we can. We can make the program bigger if it works. We have lost nothing but time if it doesn't. The vote was close, but in the end, it was for 3 weeks later. Maya was on a ship called the Phoenix, heading to another abandoned collective station. There were only 12 people on the crew, including Maya, Dr. Webb, and a pilot named Jackson Chen. He said he wasn't related to Dr. Sarah Chen, but did say that he had read all of her papers. The station they picked was in better shape than the one where Maya had been stuck. The warp drive was still working, the power systems were still working, and the living areas were still pressurized. It was great for doing controlled experiments. Dr. Webb said, okay, and then set up monitoring equipment around the drive. We know the theory. Now we need to see if it works with the people's things or if there was something special about our case. Maya had brought a new set of important things: a picture of her family from the party to welcome her home, a medal her nephew made out of cardboard and string for her, a rock from her childhood backyard, a letter that her sister had sent. They carefully wrote down the history of each item and its emotional significance, but they didn't do anything. Maya tried every possible setup she could think of, but each thing against the crystal surface of the drive spoke their stories out loud, made patterns and arrays. Nothing made more than a faint flicker of a response. The drive stayed still. I don't get it, Maya said, upset after trying for 6 hours and failing. These things means a lot to me. They have a lot of history and meaning. Why are not they working? Dr. Webb looked over the information. The signature on the information is different. Your old toys had years of use and play on them. These things have new meaning. The pattern isn't complicated enough yet. So we need things that are old, things that have been important for a long time. Or maybe it isn't just about how long it lasts. It might be about how strong it is. You played with your first toys during important times in your life: trauma in childhood, first loves, and big changes in life. These new things are important, but they don't change anything. Jackson spoke up after watching quietly for a while. My grandma's watch. Since she died 10 years ago, I have carried it with me every day. During the worst time in my life, it was with me. Would that work? They gave it a shot. As soon as Jackson touched the watch to the drive's surface, the crystal lit up, not as dramatically as with Maya's toys, but you could tell it was working. The watch had enough important information to register. Okay, Dr. Webb said with excitement. So it's not just for Maya. The technology can work with anything that is important to someone. The question is how much meaning we need and how we can measure it. They tested things from each crew member over the course of the next week: a pilot's logbook from their first flight alone, a wedding ring for an engineer, a biologist's field notebook from important research, cook's grandmother's book of recipes. Each object that had real meaning for the person turned on parts of the drive. Things that were only useful or that you had just bought did nothing. They found patterns. Things that were related to loss or a big success worked best. Things that had been used a lot over the years had stronger signatures. The most complicated data patterns came from things that had been around for a lot of important life events. It's like the objects absorb the emotional weight of the moments they witness. Dr. Webb said they become places where people store their experiences, and collective technology can read that storage space the same way we read computer code. But why? Maya asked. Why would technology from another world care about human emotions? Maybe it's not just for people. Maybe the collective's technology can understand the experiences of any intelligent species. They just use different things and patterns. We are finding a universal truth here. That meaning, the importance, makes a kind of information that is more complicated and useful than just numbers. Jackson had been working on math problems. If we are right about this, we might be able to make a database, a list of important things that volunteers have given. People could give things away with the promise that they would be used to power technology, like giving blood, but for things. Maya said, that's a big change in culture, getting people to give up their most important things for the greater good. Maybe, or maybe it's making a new kind of value. Your teddy bear didn't stop being important to you just because it had a warp drive. If anything, its meaning got stronger. It saved your life. That's a better legacy than being in a box in storage. The Phoenix team spent another month testing things out. writing down what they found and coming up with ideas. By the time they got back to Earth, they had proof that Maya's experience wasn't one of a kind, that useful things could work with collective technology in consistent ways, that people could use advanced technology not by reverse engineering it, but by making real emotional connections. The effects were huge. Dr. Webb said at the follow up conference, "We are suggesting a new area of study, engineering resonance, the intentional utilization of semantically rich objects to engage with sophisticated technology. It's a mix of physics, psychology, and anthropology, and it could be the key to figuring out everything the collective left behind." Maya watched as the audience took this in. Some people were happy, some people were not sure. A few people seemed really upset by the idea of putting meaning and feeling into technology. But Maya knew something that they were all still trying to figure out. It wasn't about replacing human feelings with cold efficiency. It was about realizing that human feelings have always been strong, that meaning was important, that the things we loved and the things we went through made something real, measurable, and useful. It wasn't just math and physics that made up the universe, it was also stories and memories and the weight of all the lives that had been lived. And maybe the most advanced societies knew that the collective may have made technology that needed real experience because they knew that was the strongest force in the world. Maya's toys were still connected to that first warp drive, still powering it, still showing that memories from childhood could change the world, or in this case, stations that are light years apart. As a technician, she had gone to space. She had come back to show that the human heart was the most advanced piece of technology ever made, and the universe was finally figuring out how to read its own code. 18 months after Maya's return, the Geneva Accords on Resonance Technology were signed. The framework was agreed upon by 63 countries. You can give away valuable things for free in exchange for access to activated collective technology, strict rules for handling, respect for cultural significance, and psychological support for donors. It was the first time that people worked together because of a unique chance. Maya became the public face of the program, even though she never wanted to be famous. She stood in donation centers and told people what would happen to their grandfather's pocket watch or their daughter's baby's blanket. She told them that repurposing things didn't take away their meaning. She talked about her own experience, how her toys had gone from being comforting to helping scientists making new discoveries without losing their original meaning. Some people got it right away. Some people had trouble with the idea. Everyone had something to ask. An old woman who was holding her father's harmonica from World War III asked, "How do you know it will work?" Maya said, "Honestly, we don't guarantee it will. Not every important object has enough data, but we first scan and measure the information signature, and only then we do move forward. If the reading shows that they are compatible, the signatures on your father's harmonica is very strong. It saw decades of family and music get togethers. That makes patterns that are hard to understand, and you will be nice to it. It will be treated with the same care as museum pieces, stored in the best way possible, only for research that has been approved. If the program ever ends, all of the items will be given back to the people who gave them or their families." The woman nodded slowly and gave the harmonica to the man. Maya felt the weight of that trust every time someone gave her money. 8 months into the program, the first big success happened. A group in Tokyo used a bunch of meaningful things from 50 volunteers to turn on a collective communications relay. The relay connected to the old collective network, and all of a sudden, people could talk to each other in real time over 10 light years. The value for strategy and science was beyond measure. There were more successes after that. a research station turned on near Alpha Centauri, a place in the Kuiper Belt where resources are processed. A huge archive station that looked like it held 300 years worth of scientific and historical information from the collective. To activate each one, you needed a different set of objects. The communications relay needed things that were connected to the connection, like wedding rings, friendship bracelets, and family photos. The research station responded to things that had to do with learning, like textbooks, scientific tools, and letters of acceptance to college. The archive station turned on with things that brought back memories, like journals, photo albums, and memorial items. Dr. Webb said at a symposium that collectives technology is reading context. It's not just finding useful data, it's also sorting it, figuring out what kind of meaning something has and how to use it in the right way. The technology is more advanced than we ever thought it could be. Maya sat in the audience and listened to the people talk about what she had found. It seemed like a dream. She was trying to stay alive. Now she had accidentally started a revolution in the use of technology by both humans and aliens. A young woman came up to her after the symposium. In their mid 20s, they were full of nervous energy and carrying a worn backpack. Technician Rodriguez, this is Zara Patel. Next month, I will start a graduate program in the resonance engineering. I wanted to say thank you. My parents died when I was young, and I have been carrying their things around for years, feeling bad that I can't let go. Now it's more than just sadness, it's information, it's helpful, that helps in some way. Maya's throat felt tight. I'm sorry about your mom and dad. What are your plans for school? I want to learn about the psychology of things that have a lot of meaning. Why some things get more important over time and others don't. How the cultural context changes how information is shared. We don't know a lot. They talked for an hour. Zara had ideas about the difference between group meaning and personal meaning, about whether shared cultural objects, such as religious text or national monuments, might contain even more intricate information about normal guidelines for dealing with things that have painful pasts. What about things that come from trauma? Zara asked. My mother's hospital bracelet from when she died. It means something to me, but in a bad way. Would that be different from happy memories? Maya said. We don't know yet. All the successful activations have used things that have different meanings, happiness and sadness, victory and defeat. It's possible that the technology needs that level of complexity. It could be reading about all the different things that people go through. As the program grew, the question stayed with Maya. They were using amazing technology, but what did it cost? Were they telling people to make money off their grief, to use their most painful memories to help them move forward? At a meeting to review the program, she brought these up. Maya said, we need ethical oversight, evaluating donors, mental health, easy to understand consent processes, follow up help for people who might be traumatized by giving up things that remind them of their loss. A government worker told her not to worry. We have forms for consent. People help out. That's enough. It's not. These are not just things you own. They are memories that have been put outside of you. We are asking people to give up parts of themselves for the good of the group. That needs more attention than just signing a form. Commander Akafor, who is now in charge of the military applications division, backed Maya. She is right. Three of our donors have had severe mental health problems after giving. One had to go to the hospital. We can't ignore that. The program added services for psychological screening and support. It took longer, but it was more humane. Maya felt better about herself, even though she was still unsure about what she had done. During a family dinner, her sister Alex called her out on it. Alex said, you are in charge of everything. You didn't come up with this technology. You didn't make the system. You lived and told others what you learned. It's not your fault what people do with the information, but I am the one who shows it. People have faith in me. If this goes wrong, then it goes wrong, and we'll learn and change. That's how things move forward, Maya. You can't make everything happen the way you want it to. Their 8 years old nephew spoke up. Aunt Maya, will my toys ever be able to fly spaceships? Maya smiled, even though she was nervous. Maybe if you take care of them well and they mean a lot to you. Awesome. I'm going to give my action figures a lot of meaning. Everyone laughed. It was nice to see how innocent it was. Maya's nephew saw a chance where Maya saw a problem. Maya went to the archive that night to see where her old toys were kept. They had been taken off the first warp drive after it was successfully reactivated and kept as historical artifacts. She had permission to see them whenever she wanted. She stood in front of the locked display case and looked at Beer, the astronaut figure, and the other figures. They seemed small and worn out, not important to anyone who didn't know their story. She whispered, "You saved me, and now you're helping everyone else too." I hope that's okay. A guard on duty stopped for a moment. "Technician Rodriguez, sorry to butt in. I just wanted to say thanks. My husband works at the Alpha Centauri station. Without what you found, he wouldn't be there. This chance wouldn't be available to our family." "What did you give?" Maya asked. "Our wedding photo album. Pictures from the last 20 years." I turned on a habitat module on the station. Knowing that our memories are a part of that and that our love is literally powering the place where my husband walks makes being apart easier. Like we are still in touch. Maya felt a little less anxious after the guard left. Yes, there were risks. Yes, there were problems with ethics. But there was also this people finding new meaning in things that were important to them, sadness and happiness joining something bigger, human experience transformed into cosmic infrastructure. That might have been fine. That might have even been beautiful. The program kept getting bigger. 5 years after Maya was saved, there were 47 collective facilities that work in all of human space. Each one got its power from meaningful things that people gave. Each one was a tribute to the idea that human experience was worth more than just one person. Dr. Webb's resonance engineering department had grown to be the one of the best in the world. Students from all over the world came to learn about the connections between psychology, physics, and xenotechnology. They wrote papers about emotional archaeology and information theory. They came up with new ways to scan things to find out how dense the meaning is. They made rules for giving away things in an ethical way. Maya, who was 5 years old and a lot smarter, ended up teaching a seminar on how to use resonance in real life. Her students were smart and idealistic, and they thought they could solve problems, and she was still trying to figure out. One student said during a discussion, "The question we are not asking is what the collective used to power their technology. They must have had things that were important to them as well. What are they?" That was a good question, one Maya couldn't answer. The collective had left behind working technology, but no instructions on how to use it. They left this part of space hundreds of years ago and never said why. Were they gone? Changed beyond their physical form? Just not interested in talking to you again? Maybe that's the real mystery, Maya told her class. Not how to use the technology they left behind, but why they made it in the first place. That needed meaning. What does that mean for them? What did they know about the universe? One of the students raised their hand. Maybe meaning is the most important thing, like magnetism or gravity. Maybe consciousness makes patterns in reality that are just as real as physical forces. And maybe the collective knew this in ways we are just starting to understand. Maya smiled. Write that paper. I want to read it. She walked around the campus after class, thinking about the meaning of things, consciousness, and the weight of things. She had brought childhood toys with her to space to make her feel better. She came back with proof that comfort could be measured, that love, memory, and meaning made something that could be measured and used. She had never thought the universe would be so strange and beautiful, and somehow her teddy bear had been the key to figuring that out.